Welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I'm going to be discussing the aftermath of the Bitcoin spot ETF approval by the SEC. I'm also going to be touching on some prophetic words that deal with Bitcoin going to zero before it actually goes up to 100,000. Now, before I get into this, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing information, giving you my thoughts and my opinions on that information. Now, just to talk a little bit about the Bitcoin spot ETF aftermath. Currently, you see Bitcoin at $43,387. Now, this is far from what a lot of people thought. Some of my expectations were shattered back in December when it seemed like that they were doing everything they could to stop Bitcoin from running before this Bitcoin spot ETF approval. And I've shared in a previous video that every step of the way just seems like every time Bitcoin would get some momentum, they would take the air out of the balloon. And even on the day before the spot Bitcoin ETF was to be approved, the SEC got hacked and the information that came out was a day too early. And so that killed a lot of the momentum too as well. And so with Bitcoin sitting at 43,367, it's like, where does it go from here? Because everybody's expectations in the crypto world were shattered. And I shared with you guys that the elites control the markets. Just to give you an example, this article came out on January the 10th of 2024. The rich now own a record share of stocks. Percentage of U.S. households' equity and mutual fund shares owned by the wealthiest 10% of the population. About 93% of U.S. households' stock market wealth is held by the top 10%. All right, so they control the markets. They control whether it goes up or down. They control which companies make it in the stock market and so on. All right, so now these people are moving into the crypto world, and they're trying to get everybody out as much as possible so that they can control it. And one of the ways they're going to control it is they're going to start getting rid of cryptos. There's going to come a time when a lot of cryptos are just going to go away, and I've talked about this for years. And I've shared that this is going to be something that is controlled. Now, if you remember Dr. Maria Conwell's prophetic dream about the roller coaster, and basically that's representing Bitcoin in the crypto markets, there's a slow rise up to the top, right? And I think we're going to get that, right? I don't think it's going to go up as high as everybody thinks it is in the timing that they think it's going to happen, but eventually we are going to get this bull run, whether or not Bitcoin drops down to zero first or it drops to zero later, because there is some kind of confusion in that. Now, one of the things is, before I get into that, is if you look at just YouTube, you type in Bitcoin crash, right? And, there's different YouTubers that have been saying stuff like a big Bitcoin crash is incoming. Is Bitcoin about to crash? I predict Bitcoin will likely top Thursday or Friday, then a big BTC crash by 40K, crashing down near 8K, right? And so this is one prediction here from a chart reader who believes it's going to go down to 8K. The 2024 Bitcoin crash, why the crash is inevitable. The upcoming Bitcoin ETF crash to 20,000. Bitcoin will crash 50% from here. All planned, there is a BTC crash coming after the ETF. So that's why it's always important too, not to always look at the prophetic in trading, because you can go very much wrong in that. And that's why you need to have people who know how to read the charts, or at least listen to people or watch people who know how to read the charts. And you can, if you listen to 2 or 3 or 4 people, you can get an idea, especially if you've been training yourself in learning how to trade and read charts. You're educating yourself about what may or may not take place in the future, and then you're also going to include the prophetic with that. So if you remember, I did a video on, as far as Bitcoin, what would happen after it reaches 100,000. Now, in my research, folks, I believe that there could be a total of anywhere from 4 to 5 Bitcoin crashes to zero, whether it's a flash crash or otherwise. Now, my thinking is that, maybe over the next couple years, that we may only see maybe 3 crashes to zero. And whether that's a flash crash or an actual crash, a slower crash to zero, all that remains to be seen. But we know that according to prophecy that's out there, that Bitcoin will make a crash to zero after it reaches 100,000. But there is some prophetic words that do deal with Bitcoin crashing to zero, or flash crashing, right? Because that's what we look for, is a crash, a flash crash, when everything in the crypto markets flash crash to zero. So that's what we're looking for. So this is my flash crash preparation list that I'm working on. So it's not completely done. But for those of you who subscribe, you guys should already have a copy of this. So there's a couple prophetic words. One is from Dr. Maria Conwell and one is from Milton. Dr. Maria Conwell, this is what she said back on March the 6th of 2022. And she said, the Lord asked me to remind you, time is short. The Lord told me he has to drop BTC first so his people can get in while it's cheap and then bring it up over 100K. So that should be happening soon. Put a buy order in on Coinbase for BTC at 10 cents. All right, so many people have placed their low Bitcoin buy limit orders at 10 cents. And, one of the reasons why you do that, just because you put it at 10 cents, that doesn't necessarily mean that your order is going to purchase all the Bitcoin at 10 cents. It actually still could purchase Bitcoin at a penny or less than a penny, right? So even if Bitcoin reaches that 10 cent mark and it continues to go down, it'll fill at whatever price is below that 10 cent mark, right? So you might have some that fill at 10, you might have some that fill at 5 cents, 1 cent, and even below 1 cent. And then when it goes back up, guess what? It's going to still try to fill those orders. So Milton, back on January 29th, this was actually before Maria Conwell. He said, I saw this in a dream before I woke up just now. Not sure when this may happen. So he saw Bitcoin go up to 55K, and then it came crashing down. So is 55K a potential pricing point before we actually see Bitcoin go to zero? So that's just something to ponder on and to prepare yourself for. And that's what I've been sharing with you guys, that, for whatever scenario that there is, whether it's before or after, that you're prepared and you're in position. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen now. Remember, I shared with you guys that in my research, in looking at all the different prophetic words, it seems like there's at least 4 or 5 crashes to zero. And some of those, and maybe even most of those, might even be flash crashes. Right? So I'm not saying that these are going to happen now or it's going to happen when it hits 55,000. None of these people are saying that either. So I wanted to put this information out there so that people are aware that this is a possibility that we actually will see the flash crash before it hits 100,000. And we're not just preparing for Bitcoin, because as I've shared with you guys, that there's not that much Bitcoin on the exchange. And if you look at the total supply minus the estimated loss of Bitcoin, subtracting what's on the exchanges already, right, and the unmined Bitcoin, there's an estimated 11.7 million Bitcoin that is stored off exchange. With the 1.8 million that's on exchanges, Binance has the most, and you can't place low buy limit orders on Binance for Bitcoin at a penny or 10 cents or anything like that. Now, I don't know if that's changed, so if you guys could check, leave a comment down below in the description. Coinbase is the next one in line with 410,000 Bitcoin. So when you look at Dr. Maria Conwell's prophecy, placing low buy limit orders in at 10 cents, well, you're gonna have a better chance of getting Bitcoin on Coinbase than you are, let's say, KuCoin. KuCoin only has 8,604. Now, KuCoin was one of the main platforms at one time that was prophesied that this would happen on. Well, it's going to happen on all the exchanges according to the majority of the prophecies. And I share with you guys that, one person could have one order that could buy up all the Bitcoin. Plus, you have to look at this too, folks, is how many of these people have stop loss orders in. We know that the hedge funds are using AI and trading bots and everything else, which I think was going to have an impact. But when we discuss about how many people actually have low buy limit orders in for Bitcoin, it's pretty crazy. I even said that some people even have $1,000 worth of orders on an exchange. So the amount of money that they put into some of these orders is enough to buy up all the Bitcoin if it really does flash crash to zero. So that's why I was sharing with people, to start looking at other cryptos to start placing low buy limit orders. You remember Dr. Maria Conwell and Christopher Harris and many others, they talked about placing like Shiba Inu, placing 7 zeros and a 1 on Coinbase for your low buy limit orders. Also with Luna Classic, Christopher Harris talked about it. There's also other prophecies concerning other cryptocurrencies. But for the most part, anything that is below a penny, you could add a whole lot of extra zeros on it in hopes that during the flash crash that you pick some of those cryptocurrencies up. And that's what I did, is I put together this flash crash preparation list, and the pricings of these are as of July 23rd. So when I'm looking over this, I'm like, wow. I look at like Sol, that's at $19.47. That ran up to, $130, and I was lucky to get some of that. And there's also a lot of other cryptocurrencies that just skyrocketed, right? And that's why you can't just focus on swap coins only, coins with a whole bunch of zeros, because a lot of those coins haven't moved, while many other coins that don't have any zeros have been moving. But anyways, and here on this Coinbase sheet on the flash crash preparation list, I marked all the ones that you could place like low buy limit orders on, whether it's a penny or below a penny. And of course, the cheaper the cryptocurrency is, the lower the price you can put some of these in. Most of them stop at 1 cent. So if you already have a couple orders in for Bitcoin, start looking at some of the other cryptos. We also talked about the Ethereum flash crash. Well, you need to strategize about where you want to place your low buy limit orders. Coinbase has over 2 million. Kraken over 1.695 million. OKX a little bit less than a million. KuCoin 118,000. So some of these low buy limit orders that people are putting in, you put $100 worth of low buy limit orders of Ethereum at some of the different pricing points, you're going to gobble up all the Ethereum in theory if it was to crash to zero. So you can use this coinglass.com/balance, and you can look at all the different cryptocurrencies that you may or may not put low buy limit orders on. So within the next 15 months, technically, we could see a flash crash or crash to zero before we reach 100,000, and then we can see it after 100,000. And just because it reaches a certain point over 100,000 doesn't mean that it's going to crash right then and there, because like we have shared before, that it's going to go over 100,000, maybe 133, 150,000, maybe even 300,000 in a flash spike. We don't know how things are going to play out. And that's one of the reasons why I just take these things day by day and prophecy by prophecy. And, I pay attention to what's going on with chart readers and everything else. Now, one of the things that I wanted to remind folks concerning this wealth transfer, the first part this year going into 2024 is the world's view of the wealth transfer. And what I mean by that is buying on the low and selling on the high. Right? That is part of a wealth transfer definition of the world. And so we are expecting Bitcoin to go up above over 100,000, many other cryptocurrency and other investments to skyrocket this year. And so with that, we are supposed to take those funds and take care of ourselves, to take care of our family, and to prepare for the hard times that are getting ready to come. But also, we have to prepare ourselves for what I call the real wealth transfer. And what that is that when everything crashes, when this economy crashes, that we are in position to buy the homes, to buy the vehicles, to buy the land and the buildings and so on. I believe that is the real wealth transfer. Anybody who's in Shiba Inu, whether they're Christian or not, are going to benefit. All right, so the wealth transfer, the way that I look at things now, the world's view is what's taking place in 2024. And what's going to take place in God's real wealth transfer is when God's people are able to be the lender and not the borrower, to be able to fund ministries with millions of dollars to preach the gospel all over the world for those who actually preach the gospel, not fake TV preachers and fake TV prophets and all this stuff, people who are actually out in the streets, who are doing things like feeding the poor and homeless, taking care of the widow and the elderly. That's what it's used for. Right? That is the main purpose, not just for ourselves and preparing for the future, but for the equipping of the saints, because there's going to be ministries out there that need to be funded, that are actually preaching the word of God and trying to get souls saved in the streets. Not everyone is equipped to do that. Many of you are not equipped to do that, but guess what? You'll be able to fund those types of ministries. And so it's going to be very important about the type of ministries that you fund. You want to plant your seed in good ground. And you don't want to plant your seed in bad ground. You don't want to plant your seed in false ministries and false prophetic ministries and people who give false prophecies. That's going to be very important because you are supposed to be a steward over these finances. And if you're investing in people that are always getting things wrong all the time, guess what's going to happen when you plant your seed into those people, right? You're sowing it on bad ground, on stony ground, or on ground that has thorns in it. So when it comes to Bitcoin, will it crash before 100,000? To me, it doesn't really matter. I'm in position either way. So anyways, folks, that is all that I have for this today. I thank you guys for listening. God bless. TC out.